All right, man, let's go over to the NBA and run down the current state of the playoffs. The Eastern Conference has their business wrapped up as of last night. The Boston Celtics sunk the Toronto Raptors 92-87, securing their date with Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off in the Eastern Conference side of things. Let's go ahead and start with some news from Milwaukee. So we highlighted some of the offseason changes possibly coming to them this past week. But later this week, we've learned since that Giannis does plan to stay. Mike Budenholzer's job is safe, reportedly, and some guys might be on the trading block. So this news is kind of shocking to you, Drink?
Nope. We talked about this last week, and remember, I said if this roster stays the way it is, Giannis is out of here. And then Jay said because he feels as if Giannis is a very loyal guy, and he's a very I want to win here type of guy, that he was going to stay. But it seems like we both was heading somewhat in the right direction of what they want to do. Giannis came out and said, look, I'm not pursuing a trade. I'm not pursuing the front office to make any changes. He's supposed to say that, though. Giannis is he's not LeBron James, or he's not, James Harden. He's not going to come out on the mic and be like, oh, yeah, I know what we need to do. Yeah, we need to cut some dead weight. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to do that. He has shown us that's not his personality. That's not the type of guy he is. He's a team guy. So he's going to come out and say, I'm not asking for all this. And to be honest with you, I believe him. He's not asking for all this. You know why he's not asking for none of this? Because he don't have to. He got me, he got you, he got media, he got everybody else that would ask for this for him. He don't need to say anything. Because let's be real here. You're not winning a championship with this roster as is. You're not. I don't care what you tell me. Eric Bledsoe ain't getting you a championship. We just seen that. He's not going to get it done. You can't depend on him. Middleton can be a piece for a championship, but I'm starting to wonder, as a number two, he might not be able to get it done either. I don't know. He hasn't shown me enough to make me think that he can get it done as a number two. You can't tell me we don't have a large enough sample size of Chris Middleton being a number two, and they're not getting it done, right? So, to your point, like you said, it's rumors going around, possibly CP3 coming down, or maybe Milwaukee makes a trade somewhere down. Like we talked about Fred VanVleet. Maybe you do a sign and trade this offseason. Toronto do that and try to, maybe switch the Middleton and you throw in a second round draft pick and one of the guys off the bench and get you a Fred VanVleet, some more shooting around Giannis. And to your point, yes, I do understand Middleton as of right now is a better player than Fred VanVleet is. I got that. He has a better pedigree, I would say. But Fred VanVleet gives Giannis what he wants the most. A guy that he can, a dependable shooter, because that's what he needs. We didn't talk about this. Giannis' mid-range game needs to be better. His three-point range don't necessarily, he don't have to light it up, but he just need to go a couple of percentage higher. And then we talked about the free throw shooting. Well, all that can improve if Giannis don't have to run into the Great Wall of China every doggone play. You know what I mean? So, and how do you defeat that? You get somebody that makes the defense fear their shooting. Don't get me wrong. Brook Lopez, I lost one. But Brook Lopez, it's a couple of guys on that team that can shoot the three very well. I really like what Brook Lopez do when he's on. He can shoot that ball very well from the 5 spot. But you got guys like Bledsoe. How much are they playing Bledsoe?
A good bit, yeah. It's like just signed that extension recently. It was like 70-something million, I think.
Yo, you could go find a couple of rocks out in your front yard that's shooting the three better than him. So you got all that money floating around and he ain't giving you nothing. George Hill is hit and miss as your backup point guard. So it's like something got to happen with this roster. With that said, I do think Milwaukee is a capable franchise of making this happen. You also alluded that they're keeping Mike Budenholzer, which I think they should. I don't necessarily say, This is Budenholzer's fault. Should he have made some adjustments? Yeah. But do we even know if he could have made adjustments? Like, that's one thing we got to think about. Maybe he didn't have the sauce he needed to make the proper adjustment. Once again, you need some roster changes. I'm not going to blame Mike Budenholzer for that. Coach of the year. He's been a top-notch coach in this league. And you have to understand, people always fire him, and replace him with who? You got to understand this. You have to replace him with somebody. And for that GM, if that GM fires a good coach and then replaces him with garbage, he's getting fired next. That's it. That's how it works. So we understand the dynamics of, all right, we're going to leave Budenholzer alone. Giannis want to stay. All right, now let's get to the good stuff. Let's build this roster. Let's get some more pieces to help Giannis develop more and get to that next level. And that's how I'm looking at Milwaukee right now.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly agree. I was a little surprised that Budenholzer's job was being reported safe this quick. I thought that might be a decision they would kick around for a while. Like, I'm not overly surprised that it is safe in general, but I thought it was like kind of surprising that the word got out that fast. Like, oh yeah, he's good, he's safe, don't worry about it. I don't know. Like, I think that the flip side of that is if you hold on to a coach that can't get you there, that can get you through the regular season, but they can't get you to the playoffs, it's not really any better because obviously Milwaukee has progressed from the team that wasn't winning a lot of games to winning a bunch of games to making the playoffs consistently. You're at the precipice of the mountain. Like you're about at the top, right? And I don't know. Mike Budenholzer to me hasn't proven yet that I'm the guy that can get you above that if I had the right pieces. Like, I feel like you only get what you were going to get out of your roster anyway with him. But that's just me. I can see Milwaukee wanting to run it back with him again. I don't. I can't say that's a bad.
I think they give him one more year.
Right.
This will be the last year.
Right, that makes sense. So that's okay. I think that you're going to have to make some moves. And I like that Giannis didn't come out and he didn't trash his franchise. He didn't say, oh, yeah, these bums, we got to do this now. He cut the dead weight and, turn the sails and all that. But I think that they should be very aware that if they don't do something with him soon, that he is going to potentially leave in free agency. So, yeah, I think VanVleet would be a great signing. I think that if he was willing to take maybe a little less money than, say, like the Knicks or someone would like put his name on the stadium, just have him show up type thing, that might be smart because he'd still be on a contender and he'd be a perfect fit in this Milwaukee team. But maybe a guy like CP3, get another ball handle in there. And if you can move on from Middleton's contract, it's going to give you some more assets to work on in the future. So we'll see how that plays out. We got some more to get to, so let's go ahead and keep rolling. Boston-Toronto. Boston takes them down in Game 7. Anything surprising about that?
I wouldn't say surprising. I thought, listen, if you go talent for talent, we like to do what we call a talent breakdown for these series, right? Let's think about the top 5 players in this series. Who's the number 1 player? I think a lot of people would have said before the series started, the number 1 player in this series was between Pascal Siakam or Jason Tatum. One of those two was the number 1, and then obviously the other one was number 2.
Right.
So let's say before the series, I would say Siakam probably was considered number 1 because of what we had seen him do. We know Jason Tatum was fire, but we wanted to see a little more.
Yeah, it was very close.
You know what I'm saying? It's very, very close. Razor thin. And so you probably would have had Siakam, and then you would have probably had Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and possibly Kemba Walker, and then you get around to Kyle Lowry, and Fred VanVleet, and so on and so forth. My point is this: if you went talent for talent, Boston should have won the series. I think because I do think that Brad Stevens is a better coach than Nick Nurse. Even though I got it, Nick Nurse is an NBA winning champion. I got that. But now you're talking about a total different team this year, meaning you're going to have to pull more out of Nick Nurse this year. Can you pull that more? I done seen Brad Stevens piece up a game plan and try to beat LeBron and push LeBron to 7 games. And, I done seen him against, against the elite and actually come up with a game plan that you like, yo, how did the Celtics even win that game?
Right.
I can't necessarily say I've seen that out of the Raptors. I did like their fight in this series, without a doubt. I'm not surprised with the overall result, but I would say this: Toronto, if Fred VanVleet does leave, I think that championship window is closed. I don't see, unless you get another phenomenal 1-year rental from somebody, I think the window is closed. Because you got to think, Marc Gasol, he ain't got much left on the trades. He's going to be out of here sooner or later. How much do Ibaka got left on the trade? How long do Lowry hang around? That's the problem when you have these veteran-laden teams. You're not going to have them very much longer. Right. Your young guys, Powell, Siakam, Anunoby, those guys might be around for the next, 3 to 5 years or so. But I would not be surprised to hear Gasol retire this year after the season. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that. I wouldn't be surprised to hear Ibaka getting ready to shut it down. There's another guy seen. Lowry probably play for another 2 or 3 years just because how he play. I can see him playing a little longer. But, I think the window closed for Toronto. I know this might be a hot take, but I'm going to go with it. Fresh and hot, fresh off the press, listen to this take. I think the window closed for Toronto. We'll see how they roll. But I think the series went the way it was supposed to go. Thanks for coming. And in the Eastern Conference, right, before we move on, this is crazy. So the 1 and 2 seed get bounced. So now you got the 3 and 4 seed, the 3 and 5 seed, I should say, playing for the conference finals for the East. And then we're looking at the West. We look like we're on the right collision course for the West. I say that. So this is very, very unique within itself to see how they unfolded, because everybody want to talk about the Eastern Conference is the leastern conference according to Skip Bayless, and you could just run a rope shot. But you cannot tell me the Western Conference was more competitive than the Eastern Conference this year. The Eastern Conference was very, very competitive. Very competitive. I mean, we talked about this beforehand. Jimmy Butler is going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. We knew they was a competitive team, but we didn't think they was a finals conference team until now. So that's one thing to look at. But yeah, man, Toronto in trouble. I'm curious to see how they bounce back from this exit and what they do in the offseason.
Yeah, we have time to get into their deal there at some point. I would say that their championship window probably closed, but I think they're still going to be a very competitive team. I think they'll still be, a playoff team in the East for a while. I think they got a good enough core, and Nick Nurse is good enough. They're going to rebound quickly. And they have a very good GM who's built this team, and he's a smart guy. He's going to know how to kind of navigate the waters. But yeah, they've got some definite changes coming. They probably won't be in the championship again anytime soon, but I think this core is good enough to build around. As far as the games themselves, I think in the series, I think the Toronto kind of made a mistake of maybe not using their bench enough. You had their starters played a lot of minutes, man. I think VanVleet had like 45 last night. I mean, they've been doing that every game. Obviously, the double overtime game in Game 6. And I think that you look at the minutes that Toronto played on their bench, it was really, really, really low. And I think that started to bite them as the series kept going. I think Boston had that right mix and Toronto maybe didn't. Siakam really wasn't that superstar we thought he was going to be. We talked about this some before the show. I think it's for Siakam, it was a little bit of a problem of getting paid and having outrageously high expectations, because we knew, you have a Kawhi vote. Kawhi could be considered the best player in the world right now. I mean, you can make that argument. And Siakam was expected to just step in. You got paid. You're already on this meteoric rise. You're most improved player, potentially 2 years in a row. This is it. You got to be a superstar now, man. Go out there and score 35 a night. And I don't think he's that guy yet. So, but he had to be that guy if Toronto was going to win the series, and he wasn't. He was really below average, even what he would play at normally. But that was, I think, another thing that sunk Toronto was just they didn't get enough out of him. And again, I don't know if that's 100% Siakam's fault. A lot of it was outside of his control, expectations-wise. But if Toronto's going to win more games, he's going to be better. Marcus Smart had a great series. Big shout out to him. He might have been the best player in the series in the last couple of games. And hey, Grant Williams, give the rookie a shout out, man. He played a lot of ball down the stretch in that fourth quarter. Poor Tice comes back in for 10 seconds, fouls right back out of the game. Williams comes in. He had a big defensive series late. He had some big rebounds. I mean, he made some good passes. Good on him. It must be nice to be the Celtics and have this championship level roster, and then also have all these draft picks just to throw in whenever you want. And hey, you know, and shout out Tatum and Brown. They were the dudes to the series. You know, they weren't always both amazing, but they really played at the level they have to play at if Boston is going to win games. Like I said, they will go as far as Tatum and Brown can take them. And as long as they're playing this well, they have a chance against anybody they play. But again, you know, if they start faltering a little bit, this team's going to start going back down pretty quick, just as easy.
And one more thing I want to say. I think the biggest difference in this series is what you just said about Marcus Smart. I think Marcus Smart was the determining factor that got, with all these all-stars and, you know, superstars or whatever in this series, to me, Marcus Smart was the difference with his consistent play on defense, his grittiness, his toughness. That's the type of guy you would need to win a series like they just won. Now, they're going against the Miami Heat that has a guy like that, but the only difference is their guy happens to be their star as well, whereas Marcus Smart don't carry the same load as the star would. So that's going to be interesting, but that is what we said about a couple of weeks ago about, you know, Milwaukee and Toronto. They don't have that guy. They don't. And we see the difference, and we see why those guys exist, why they have a place in the NBA.
All right, we're a little short on time, man. Let's go ahead and quickly kind of gloss over the Western Conference side of things, both those games still in action. We'll start with Houston, LA. Lakers did get the 3-1 advantage over the Rockets yesterday. So anything Houston can do to try to get back in this, or you think Los Angeles
it's
takes
over.
care of it?
It's over, baby. LeBron got his momentum. AD got his momentum. If the Lakers, you know, pack it in and don't come out of the locker room, then the Rockets got a chance. But now I think the Lakers are going to wrap this up and get ready for the Clippers because they see what the Clippers are.
I think so as well. But my one kind of question with this is kind of been that, I mean, I don't know if Harden has been playing terrible, but he had a bad game. He had a bad game 5, and he was like 2 of 11 from the field. He had like 16 free throws, just kind of made up for it. But I think that one of the problems we're seeing is Harden is not really played well enough to where we kind of discussed it Tuesday, and we said that we don't really think this is going to majorly impact his legacy and whatnot. But again, it feels like the same thing. You know, the Rockets get to the situation and they just fall apart. You got to do is get kicked out of the bubble, which we got in Rapids. You know, Harden is kind of flopping around. Westbrook's flopping around. And I don't know. It's disappointing to see the same old Houston Rockets, right?
And this is why I said they're going to get some criticism because of that. If they would have played and pushed the Lakers to 7, okay, the Lakers should have won the series. That I can understand. But you win the first game and then you kind of lethargic since then, and you about to get gentlemen swept. I think people are going to ride them a little bit to say, listen, you guys get paid too much. You guys are considered top 15. Well, Harden's considered top 5 player. And then you got Westbrook at this point, probably top 15. And this ain't it. 5 games, this ain't going to cut it. So the Portland Trail Blazers did the same thing. Will we say the Rockets are the same as the Portland Trail Blazers? I don't think so. And they just did the same thing, 5 games. So you get put out in 5 games, you deserve a little criticism. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and real quick, we got Clippers, Nuggets. Looked like the Clippers were going to go ahead and put this series away in 5 as well. And then Paul Millsap had an explosive third quarter, put him back in the game. And then Denver just started hitting shots down the stretch, and they are still down 3-2, but they are alive. So a little surprising there. But Clippers, they had to close this out, right?
They should, but Michael Porter Jr. said what he said, and they held him to it. Listen, you got to get more people involved. This ain't a 2-man show. Like, dude, I was the number 1 dude in the country when I came out of high school, and I was like a high draft pick when I came out of college. Like I wanted the ball. Paul Millsap, veteran, been doing this thing for my All-Star. You got to get more people involved. This is what happens when you get more people involved. I think Denver might squeak out another one. We might get 7 games out of this series.
Well, yeah, and I think that this is one of the questions I had. You know, we talked a lot about the Clippers, and we talked about how that switch can just flip on and off. You know, it will. But I'm wondering if the Clippers are starting to maybe not seem as scary as they have been. I mean, Paul George still is hot and cold. He has good games. I think he has 10-point games, or he just kind of does his thing. Obviously, Kawhi has to be perfect. The one game he took off of the series, they got destroyed in. So, Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell don't seem to be all there most games. Montrezl had 15 and 18 minutes one night, but then like last night he didn't do much. Pat Beverly seems like he's in his own head. Like, I wonder if this Clippers team, as we look ahead, it looks like they're going to take care of the series in 6 or 7. If that matchup with the Lakers is starting to feel any different, but that probably is a conversation for another day. But definitely would expect the Clippers to take care of this. But hey, this is what Denver did against Utah, so we'll see if they can do it again.